Hey guys, Kevin TCG. Today we are here testing out the Gengar EX deck. We'll see how far I get. I haven't tested it on live at all. I'm just taking some online advice to see how far I could get. Super excited to see how it goes. I like playing rogue decks, but it's not meta for a reason. We'll see if we can squeak out with at least one win.
So here is the full deck in view, and starting off in the upper left corner we have the Grand Tree and Artisan as the stadium cards, and of course we have Gengar EX, 3 of them, 2 Haunters and 4 Ghastlies. There's a specific type of Ghastly and Haunters they're supposed to use with higher HP. I didn't have all of them, so what I got is what I got. 2 Pidgeot EXs, 1 Monkey, Monkey Dory, sorry I forgot his name. We got 1 Monkey, 1 Sableye, and Rotom V for that extra draw support. And then our items and tools, we got 2 Super Rods, a Lost Vacuum, 3 Ultra Balls, 2 Nest Balls, and 3 Buddy Buddy Poffins, just so we can be sure to find all of the basic Pokemon, and then some. And we got 4 hammers, 4 Crushing Hammers, and 1 Enhanced Hammer, so a total of 5 hammers. So those are to knock off energies or special energies. We got Binding Mochi, just in case we're gonna do some power play with poison. 4 rare candies to evolve my Ghastlies or Pidgeys to their EX forms. 2 dark patches to get those dark energy from the discard back onto Gengar. 4 Seal Stone, use on Rotom, find any card. A handheld fan, 2 of them to push off any energy. Boss's orders, just 1, 2 Ionos, 3 Arvins, and 3 Janine's Secrets, and 7 Dark Energies. So with Janine's Secret Art, she mainly attaches energy to any of my Dark Pokemon on the bench, and if it's an active Pokemon, that active Pokemon is poisoned, and then that's when I would use Binding Mochi. Alright, let's go see how I did.
0-1 to start. That was actually really close. I'm shocked by how well Gengar did. It was against Charizard. If it wasn't for like my poor hand, like the first 4 turns of the game, I probably could have squeaked out with the win. They knocked me down to like, they had 2 more prize cards remaining, and I somehow came back and worked my way down to like 3 prize cards remaining for my board. So once I got Gengar EX and Pidgeot built up, it was just a matter of just knocking off their energy and then figuring out what to do with like no energy recovery basically, because all they had was Super Rod. Most standard Charizard decks run, I believe. It wasn't until they used a card to swap out one of their bench Pokemon with someone from their hand, and they were able to use Dusknoir, put some damage onto my Gengar, and then swap in their Charizard for the knockout, and they got their final 2 prize cards. So, not that bad. I'm pretty proud of Gengar. Let's see who the next opponent will be. All right, second match, 0-2. This was against a Dragapult deck, which I've never played before. Finally got to play it, and it was somewhat close. I again had like a slow start, but it was faster than the Charizard turn. Unfortunately, I couldn't come away with much like mid-game because he took out all of my Ghastlies and Gengars like super early. He mentioned that energy, like discarding and moving, was not very fun to play against, so he had to do a lot of thinking. So yeah, I'm liking Gengar so far. It's just a matter of getting a good start, because without that good start, playing catch-up is really tough. I think I had 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. No, I had 3, I think. But he was able to knock me out fairly quickly because, again, he took out all my Ghastlies. I couldn't get a Super Rod in time. And I only hit my Arvins like midway through the deck, which is not that fun. But Buddy Buddy Poffin could only do so much, and I couldn't play my A-Spec for the Stadium evolution because I knocked out all my Ghastlies, and my Pidgeots only have a Pidgey and Pidgeot, no Pidgeotto in between. But yeah, learning a lot. Let's see what the next match is gonna bring. Hopefully a win. Snack of the day too. Finally able to find an update. I was finally able to like finish a match relatively early. So here we go. I'm currently 1-4. We played 5 rounds so far. I wrote it down. All right, so Terapagos. That was the third match. We pretty much stalemated for like 7 minutes. Like we both built up our benches. We weren't drawing any energies, which was funny. And it wasn't until I was able to finally put 2 energies on, I started attacking his Terapagos. But he like late into, almost like before the match ended, my opponent realized he couldn't have any moves to knock out the rest of my bench. So he called game there. So that was a really fun match, defensive match. It's really fun playing against like these experimental decks or these decks that are just coming out because of Stellar Crown. Like we're seeing a lot of like Terapagos type archetypes. Snorlax stall. I think that's my first time playing like a traditional Snorlax stall. The one that was just like Snorlax and Rotom and Pidgeot V. That went on for up until like 5 minutes before the match ended. I didn't do Ionos early enough, and he got rid of my rare candies too early, so couldn't really do anything to knock out his Snorlax, and I just hoped he decked out, but he had that Pidgeot V at the bottom, so it didn't really matter. And then round 5 was against Okidogi. That one was, he built his deck really quick. I made a video previously where I only built a deck with Shrouded Fable cards using Okidogi, and I got to see that in like a proper like optimized version, and that thing can swing hard and pretty quickly too. I was not able to build Gengar fast enough, and that's the recurring theme I'm having is Gengar isn't that easy to build, and what I'm having trouble with is having like the EX or my stage 3 Pokemon or stage 2 Pokemon and a rare candy at the same time. I'd have to waste an Arven on either a rare candy and hope to evolve later on, or I'd have to use my Ace Spec, the Grand Tree, early game, but then that gets taken out where I can only use it once because my opponent has like Artisan or Pokestop to play. But Gengar EX, I'm liking it. I think Coral, if she does manage to play with me over at Locals, she'll like this deck. Still gunning for Raging Bolt. It's pretty popular here, but yeah, we'll see. On to the next one, or I think that's the final one? I don't know. 1 and 5. Gardevoir. I misplayed. I couldn't use. I used Rotom's ability, but Fluttermane was up in the active, and I saw the card, so I called the judge, and he said reshuffle, and then that's -2 prize cards for your opponent. So he only needed to take 4. Just couldn't pull early enough, and I just got to get better. But Gengar, I'm liking it. Recap after this.
Gengar EX, huh? Not bad. So, 1 and 5 for the day. I got 1 legit win. I had a couple matches that were pretty close, but all in all, it's not a bad deck, but there's definitely some tweaks I would change. So the pros, the positives, what's good about the deck? It really does make your opponent think. If you're playing a meta deck, you typically have a normal sequence you go through. Discard an energy, I search for a card, now I search for that card, now I have to search for this specific item card to trigger my next action and then use my ability and then load up my Pokemon with energy and then hit for attack or yada yada yada. With Gengar EX, it's totally gonna throw off your opponent's whole game plan, especially when it comes to prize mapping, because Gengar has the ability to push those energies off of your opponent's Pokemon. Also, the tools and the item cards that you're running. So you got Hammered, you got that 50-50 chance of knocking off a basic energy, or you got that instant chance of knocking off a special energy. And of course you got the fan, so every time your opponent hits the active Pokemon with the fan, energy goes on to a different Pokemon. And of course Gengar's move, push that energy elsewhere. Now this is particularly effective against decks like Charizard, when they specifically rely on Charizard to build energy, but if you reallocate their energy elsewhere, or if it's in their discard pile and they don't have any super rods, it could get a little dicey. Another positive spin about this Gengar deck is the high HP. 310 HP is quite a bit, especially coming from a player who's used to like 220 HP and like maybe 310 on one Pokemon at most. And Gengar is mainly focused on 310 for your main attackers. So you've got a couple of turns to survive with Gengar EX up in the active, if he's up there early enough. And energy building isn't that bad if you have all the right cards, and if you, I guess, sequenced correctly. So you got Dark Patches, you got your energy in the discard pile, or you can use Janine to draw up and build Gengar. Relatively early game, especially if you're not running Arvins, or if you're not running into Arvins in your early turns. Of course, you got Pidgeot and the 4 Seal Stone to look for any card you want. It really does become a toss-up for your opponent to choose, do they want to attack a Pidgeot, or do they want to attack my Gengar? If they knock out my Gengar, I lose the ability to take out the energies. If they knock out my Pidgeot, I also lose my ability to get whatever card I want. Now it's kind of take one or the other. Kind of like Charizard, but ideally with Charizard you want to take out Pidgeot because they can't pull anyone else out. They can't pull out those rare candies when they need it. As with Gengar, I think it's a little more viable if your Pidgeot is knocked out, but you at least need to get one turn with him because he could really change the tide. Negatives of the deck. I might have mentioned this in my little recaps. I do have a little bit of trouble of assembling energy in my hand. Now the deck doesn't run much energy, it runs, what, 7? It only runs 7 dark energy. You're not running into a whole ton of energy on your draws, which is not necessarily a bad thing because you want to keep hitting those item cards, like those hammers and knocking away, or applying those tools and pushing those energies away. And you have Arven, which is great, you know, item and tool, but there's no item to retrieve energies straight into your hand. You have Buddy Buddy Poffin, Ultra Balls, and Nest Balls. Now I think you could do away with 1 or 2 of those Nest Balls, or maybe 1 Buddy Buddy Poffin, and replace them with, I'd probably say, an Earthen Vessel, because you'll need that in a pinch, like mid to late game when you're running with Arven, and you literally cannot pull an energy card because you don't have it in your hand, and you can't pull an energy regardless because your Pidgeot might be out, or you want to save your Pidgeot for a different type of, you know, move. So I think adding like at least 1 Earthen Vessel just to get energies into your hand might be a good idea. But then that comes into the case of, you know, energies in the discard, but again, that also relates back to the Dark Patches. You can use Dark Patches, retrieve your energies back from the discard pile. Now there are Super Rods, but you know, late game, at least for me, I haven't been able to really use them. Unfortunately for me with Super Rods, the times I did pull them was like late game, and there's really no point in doing it when you still have a good chunk of your energy in your hand or on your Pokemon, and there's only Pokemon in your discard pile. So try to use those Super Rods relatively early to cycle back those energies if you know you're not going to run into a Dark Patch. Now because I did substitute 2 cards, because I don't have Pheasantipity EX or Petron EX, I put in I put in the Binding Mochi tool as well as Sableye. With the Binding Mochi tool, I was hoping to use it on my main Gengar in the active, so when I use Janine, he's poisoned, and then he's Binding Mochi, and then he hits harder, but then I have to remind myself, I really do, that Gengar's not an attacker. It would be nice to do extra damage, because Binding Mochi does, I believe, 30 more damage. But Gengar's not an attacker. He's sort of kind of like a stall, in a sense, but like a stall that hits. And I found myself oftentimes just using Janine on the bench Pokemon, because Gengar only takes 2 energy. So I'd use Janine on the bench Pokemon, and then I would use the tool Handheld Fan on the active Pokemon, which is Gengar in most cases, and kind of make my opponent think about hitting me. And usually by that point, they'll bosses my like Ghastly or Haunter, or they'll use what's his face, the present boy, the future present man, Iron Bundle, and make me choose someone else. Another thing I find having trouble running into is evolving, not necessarily late game, but like probably more mid game, is you have the ability to pull Arven, but also you don't have enough energy to follow up with that afterwards. So with Rare Candy, yes, I can use Arven to pull a Rare Candy or Pidgeot to pull a Rare Candy, but more times than not, I'm only running 3 Arvens, so I probably need, so I'm not consistently or I could be getting Arven a lot more frequently if I added one more, but that's besides the point. I'm having trouble evolving the Pokemon and attaching energy because, again, it falls back to the problem of only 7 energy, and when you're pulling Arven or when you're running Arven, you're looking for that rare candy to evolve your Pokemon, but you can only pull one item in Tool, and I'm using that one item on that rare candy, and I'm not using it on a Dark Patch, and I most likely don't have Pidgeot built up. That's because that might be my own fault, either through bad shuffling or kind of misplays in the early game. So you really do need to be careful on who you're setting up on your bench early, just so you can set up energy and evolutions a lot quicker than you like. Monkey Dory, he's not necessarily a bad thing, a bad Pokemon. I just haven't had the time to use him because I find that when I build my bench, it's nice to do, but oftentimes my opponent will boss us up like that Monkey Dory or a Ghastly or a Haunter, and it makes it a little more challenging just to frequently run him, especially because Gengar is that, move the energy type and slowly add damage type deck, but he's kind of a liability. At least I view him as a liability, but he's handy to have, but I'd probably run him later game than opposed to the beginning of the game. One of my favorite things to do when I transfer energy from their active Pokemon to their bench Pokemon is to put it on like their Pidgeot or the Rotom V. And so they'll have like 3 energies on them, and they can't necessarily take them back unless they have like a Penny or Professor Toro's Scenario, and which they're oftentimes not running. Rotom V, fairly solid. He saved my butt in the one match I won because my opponent and I were just building up our bench. But, I couldn't pull energies or rare candies or evolution Pokemon for the life of me. Not even like a Nest Ball or Buddy Poppin, because they were like in the middle of my deck, and I was top decking just hammers. Only hammers. So Rotom V is pretty handy just to get through the rest of your deck if you're having a slow start. Now with the hammers, Enhanced Hammer, that's actually very nice. I think running 1 is good because I ran into one opponent using a special energy, which was, I believe, double turbo. But you don't really need too many. Now the Crushing Hammers, they were so fun to use. Unfortunately, my success rate with flipping coins is awful because I think I got like 2 out of 16 times I presented the Crushing Hammer. So I think it's a skill issue with my thumb when I'm flipping the coin. 1 Boss's Orders and 2 Ionas, that's fine. It's fine. So I have an Artisan in this deck, and I have Grand Tree as my ace spec. Some ace specs, people like Prime Catcher or that little treasure chest box. But I think I'm going to keep Grand Tree because he helps with the evolution for Gengar specifically, because I am running 2 Haunters, and it's pretty handy when I can evolve at least 1 Gengar in 1 turn. So I'm going to keep that in there, but for Artisan, I haven't really used that. And my opponents, at least at the time, were running Artisan, so I could just bum off theirs. If I were to take out cards, I'd probably take out Artisan, the Sableye, because I didn't use it, Binding Mochi, and of course replace those guys with Petrunt and Pheasantipede, because that was from the original list, which I referred to, Earthen Vessel. I would add an Earthen Vessel, and then I would probably try to find another card to take out and add in another Arven. I would also probably take out a Buddy Poffin, Ultra Ball, and the Nest Ball. One of those, or like at least 2 of those, and replace them with another Earthen Vessel, or maybe 1 more energy. But yeah, Gengar EX, great deck. If you want to run it in leagues, by all means you could, but I'd suggest going to normal locals first before testing it out. I think it could be really... Let me take that back. I think it's a good rogue deck, a non-meta deck, and it's fun to play. The deck itself is relatively inexpensive if you're a collector. You most likely have a good chunk of those item cards. I know I did. The only things I really needed to buy was the Gengar and the Pidgeots, and of course Petrunt and Pheasantipede. All the rest I've had. I'm a collector. I've been collecting. I have all these cards already. So what rogue decks are you guys running? What rogue deck would you guys like me to build next? Or, I guess, any other deck? Except Charizards. No Charizards here. Sorry, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content in the future. With that being said, my name is Kevin TCG, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.